Hey, I always say this is going to be a short video, but I'm almost always lying. But it shouldn't be too bad. We're going to cover the 6th, 7th, and 8th Amendments. And hopefully, in the process, we're going to learn to organize that information in a really clear and concise way. And you're going to have a little bit of a chance to maybe reflect on that. And specifically, when I say reflect, I'm talking about what it would look like without these rights. And I think that's an important thing because a lot of times we take these rights for granted and we forget how important they really are. And unfortunately, in other countries, they don't have these rights. So they really understand how important they are. Okay, let's start with this. And I apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather today. My voice is a little bit rough. And if I slur some words now and then, it's not because I've been drinking too much cough syrup. It's just because I'm a little congested. So hold on a second. Strap your seats to the chairs and get ready for an exciting run of the 6th, 7th, and 8th Amendments. Woohoo! Okay, now for starters, let's do this. Really simple. We are going to take our papers and we are going to fold them like this, hot dog style. Okay, make sure it's evened up. Make sure I'm not hallucinating because my brain is not working fantastic this morning. Okay, now I'm going to fold again, only because I need to. That's easy to follow. Oh, what? Did I say stop? No, I didn't. One more time. There we go. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do something real crazy. We're going to take our hand right here, about the width. Actually, let's do about 3 fingers. Okay? And we're going to fold it right here at 3 fingers. Okay? And then, from there, we're going to fold this in half like that. Look at that. Now, that makes no sense. If you have to stop the video and go back and do it again, do it again. But once I unwind this video, understand exactly what I was trying to create here. So let's go ahead and open it up. Whoop, whoop. Sound effects are really important when you unfold paper. And there we go. Holy moly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Everything we need and everything that's important. Okay, so let's start with this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to block out this very top line. Use this line all the way down. Why? Because that's where our title is. Now over here, we're going to go ahead and run. Let me get rid of this little pop-up I got on my screen here. We're going to run this one all the way down. I'm going to come over here and do the exact same thing. With here, I'm using these creases to block off the stuff I'm drawing. Now, if you can't see that very well, maybe I need a darker Sharpie or a darker line. I'm going to use that darker line just to help everybody else out because I don't really need it because I can see what's going on. But I'm going to go ahead and help you all out. And I'm going to stop right at the bottom one. That's what I should have done right there. And the bottom one I'm going to use for some extra information if I need it, like kind of like footnotes. Okay, so here's where it's going to get tricky. Okay, I'm going to count down 3 of these. 1, 2, and 3. And this is where I'm going to draw my line right there. And then I'm going to count down 1, draw a line. I'm going to leave the other one blank. So I got 3 spaces here, but these ones I'm going to go ahead and fill in. Okay. Now your paper should look just like that. I'm sure you all understand that on the very first try. If you don't, go back, stop, think about it a little bit, retry it, do whatever you got to do, but get caught up because I'm going to move fast because that's just how things work today. All right, I'm going to go ahead and label this paper. It's called the Bill of Rights. I'm using my skinny pen because I don't like drawing on my big pen, writing my big pen. It gets hard to read that way. So I'm going to use this term. And I'm going to kind of set it over here. I'm going to say these two spaces. I'm going to fill the title in. Now, we have been talking about Bill of Rights, or I've made other videos on the Bill of Rights that you may or may not have supported or followed. And I always outline my vocab terms in a kapow box. So I want it to stand off on the page. When you see it, I want it to go kapow in your mind. And I'm going to add a little yellow because yellow reminds us to slow down, pay attention. It's important. Colors make differences. Shapes make differences. Organization makes differences in your mind. You learn to organize things in your mind. You learn to highlight things with certain colors and certain images. It'll stand up on your page, so when you go to study it, it'll make more sense to you. And over here, I'm going to go ahead and remind myself this is continued because I have to remember the Bill of Rights is more than just any one particular right. It's many rights. In fact, we talk about the Bill of Rights, we're talking about the first 10 amendments. And I think we've talked about that many, many times. And if we haven't, then you probably drink more cough syrup than I did. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use these boxes to describe the amendment. And these are going to be the rights inside those amendments. And over here, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Over here, I want you to go ahead and I want you to create examples of what it might look like. Oops, I better get on the page, huh? What it might look like without this right. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on over here in this column. Here, we're going to go ahead and explain what the amendments are and the rights. And this is the column you're going to use for your reflection piece. This is really important. If you're going to understand these rights, you got to process and think about them, and you got to make them your own. So, okay, let's go over here. This one is going to be the Sixth Amendment. And because I want this to stand off the page a little bit, I have my little kapow business. I'm going to go ahead and add some color. That's how we roll. I'm not spend tons of time with color. I just need a little bit on the page to remind me what I'm doing here. And I'm going to go ahead and break down this right to really three simple things. Number one, in the Sixth Amendment, and this is really important, you have a right to a speedy trial. Now, a speedy trial doesn't mean you're going to get put on trial tomorrow. And obviously, if you need more time to put together a case and to protect yourself and defend yourself properly in court, you have chances to ask for more time. But what a speedy trial means is you won't languish or sit in jail for an indefinite or undefined period of time without having your day in court. So they can't lock up and put you in jail for 5 or 10 years for you to get a chance to defend yourself. So the right to a speedy trial means that you're going to be able to get in front of a judge and you're going to be able to have a chance to defend yourself in a reasonable amount of time so that you have an opportunity to jumpstart your life again and go back to where you left off, providing you were innocent. Okay? Now, the next one in the Sixth Amendment, this is only in criminal cases, okay? So if you get in trouble in traffic court and you got to go in front of a judge, that's a whole different story. Speeding is not a criminal case. It's or and also too, if you're getting sued because you did something to make somebody mad, you know drove over their tree or something, and they sued you. That's a civil matter. That's where one person's suing another person, and that happens sometimes. But in a criminal court where you're on trial for something serious like theft or murder or whatever, you have a right to a jury trial. And if you don't know what a jury is, I'm going to kind of skip that a little bit. I'm going to come back to that word in a minute. Right to a trial by an impartial jury. Okay, an impartial jury, which means they haven't made up their mind. They're fair. If you're partial to something, you've already you're leaning towards it. Like I might be partial to pie over cake, or I might be partial to pepperoni pizza over sausage pizza. It means I like it better. Well, impartial means that neither side is liked. You don't. They don't walk in there with the choices already made. The idea is they're impartial. They're going to be there and decide things on the facts, the merit of the case, and then they'll make the decision. Okay. Now, this is one that often gets overlooked. This is also really important. It's the right to be informed of criminal charges. Now, if you are arrested, the police have to tell you why they're arresting you. It's that simple. And if you, in the process of that arrest, they take a little bit of time to come up with more charges, they could do that. But initially, they have to tell you why they're arresting you. And once things get going, within a very, very reasonable amount of time, they have to tell you if there's any additional charges being put on your arrest. So this is important because you have a right to know why you're being put in jail or what crimes you're being labeled with. And then at that point, you can start mounting the defense that you need to have to defend and protect yourself in court. Ideally, you are innocent until proven guilty in our court system, which is kind of different other places. Like in England, you're guilty until proven innocent. But on the same note, anytime you're accused of a crime and anytime you have to go to court or go to jail, it's a major, major inconvenience to your life, and it's a major disruption. It really mixes things up. Not saying that you don't deserve that, because if you're guilty of a crime, then that's just the consequence that comes with it. But if you're not guilty of that crime, boy, it takes a lot, and it's one of those things that in our court system that's not cheap. So, but you have to know what you're going to defend yourself against if you're going to defend yourself at all, and that's why you should deserve to know exactly what criminal charges you might be guilty of. So that's it. That's the Sixth Amendment. Now, when we come back to this, you're going to have to give me an idea or reflect on this a little bit and tell us why you think this right is important, or more importantly, what it would look like if this right wasn't around at all. That's what we're really looking for over here. Okay, let's go down to number 7. The Seventh Amendment. Now, they can't guarantee this on state level, but in the Constitution, you have a right to a jury trial. In federal cases. That means if you are arrested on federal charges, charges that are within the jurisdiction of the U.S. government, the national government, then you're guaranteed a trial by jury. Now, you can forego that, which means you say, I don't want it. I just want to be tried by a judge. I want to be decided by a judge. And some people will do that because I think they can get a fairer shake by somebody who's educated and understands the law better, as opposed to a jury who might be emotional about a certain situation. Um, well, that's like I said, you're right, but you're guaranteed that in a federal case. Okay. Eighth Amendment. We keep writing that word amendment because we want to keep practicing and getting a little better at our vocabulary and our spelling, but we also remind ourselves that all these amendments were changes to the U.S. Constitution. And it's important to remember that too. Okay, so here's the Eighth Amendment. Real simple, real straightforward. Two things. Number one, it bans, or what's another word for ban? Gets rid of. Excessive bail and fines. Now, if you don't know what bail is when you are arrested and you want to get released from jail, they will set something called a bail. And basically, what that says is you are going to give them a certain amount of money and you're going to let that, like a security deposit, you're going to put that down to make sure that you have an interest in coming back, is what I'm trying to say. So if you are arrested on a simple assault charge, that means you go to jail and you want to get out on a bond. It's $1,000 bond. Well, you'll go to a bail bondsman. You'll borrow the money. You'll pay him 10%, and you don't get that money back. But the bail bondsman puts the money up, and then you get out of jail. And as long as you show up to court again, the court pays you back that money. That's what a bond is. Obviously, the bigger the crime is, the more heinous the crime or the worse the crime, the bigger the bail. Like I said, a simple assault, like a fight, just because you got in a fight with somebody on the street with fists, no weapons or anything, is relatively low, $1,000. But if you murder somebody, it could be $1,000,000. It could be no bail. It all depends on the seriousness of the crime. Okay, and as far as fines go, this is where they the the fine fits the crime. So if you are fined for doing something like walking across the street and you're not in the crosswalk, it's called jaywalking. That might be a fine. If you are speeding, you might be a fine, but you can't be charged $1,000,000 for speeding. You might get a couple $100 ticket, but you're not going to get $1,000,000 ticket. And the fines have to be appropriate with the kind of crime you're committing. So that's that. And also the Eighth Amendment, it also bans cruel or unusual punishment. Now, what does that mean? It means if you're put in jail, they can't torture you. If you're put in jail, they can't beat you. If you're put in jail, there are certain humane things they have to provide for you. Now, it hasn't always been that way. Just because this is written in the Constitution didn't mean people always followed it. But we are so much better nowadays with so many more ways to highlight or put a spotlight on places who aren't guaranteeing that right. Jail's not easy. It's tough. Nobody says it's not going to be tough, but there are certain basic rights you should have when you go in there, and one of those is you're not going to be tortured or beaten because you're in jail. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to get roughed up by some other prisoners, but I'm telling you, the authorities, the cops, whatever government agencies in charge, they have to protect that right, and they also have to, within reason, They have to protect you if you're ever in a situation. They can't intentionally put you in harm's way with other prisoners, if that makes sense. Um, Cruel and unusual punishment. A lot of people want to apply that to the death penalty, and I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it's something to think about. Is it cruel or unusual to kill somebody? And we used to have some pretty barbaric ways of executing people who committed crimes that were, executable. Now, some people would say it's unconstitutional to put somebody to death. Well, I mean, the Constitution does mention treason is the one crime that's punishable by death. So it's not like the Constitution doesn't endorse the death penalty in some way, some shape, or some form. But I know there's been a lot of controversy and a lot of argument over this and how that applies and whether the death penalty should be something we allow or something we don't. And if you are going to allow a death penalty, what's that death penalty look like? So, something to think about. Anyway, quick recap: Bill of Rights, first 10 amendments. Sixth Amendment, right to speedy trial, right to a trial by an impartial jury. That means a fair jury. Right to be informed of criminal charges. They can't put you in jail without telling you why they're doing it. A right to a jury trial in federal cases. Bans excessive bail for the Eighth Amendment and bans cruel or unusual punishment. Okay. Now, your reflection: go back through these and tell yourself exactly what things might look like if you didn't have that right. That's it. All right, good luck. If you have any questions, you've always got the internet. You can try to email me um, or reach out to your teacher or anybody else who might be able to help you. That's it. Great job.